Welcome everybody to the second ever episode of The Blue Carpet. I'm your host from WeRNS, West Booth, and we're here today at Acadia University to visit Jacob Cuvelier.
Racism is alive right now. I just want to see it die right now.
We're going to sit down with him in a moment and get to know him a bit better, as well as where he's headed.
Racism's still alive, hey. And I just want to see it die, yeah.
Well, Jacob Cuvelier, it's great to have you and nice to finally meet you.
Great to meet you as well.
Yeah, so I reached out to you, I think through Facebook. It's wonderful to have those kind of tools today where you can get connected on that level.
Agreed.
And the reason I reached out to you was the recent video that I came across that was done with Global, where you performed one of your latest releases. And sort
Racism is Alive.
Racism is Alive. So can you maybe explain, where did that come from? Like,
where did it come from? That's a great question. And unlike Global, I love Global, but I only had 2 minutes to really explain myself, right? So this is great. I actually have some wiggle room. I always, as I told you before, I always had the inspiration to do something like I did for Racism is Alive, but I never had the platform. Now I have the platform, and now people will give it a listen. You know what I mean? So it all kind of came into fruition when I was growing up with, as I said before, most of my close friends were African Nova Scotian, and they were going through the problems that I address in this song. And they didn't really have a voice that was being heard, unfortunately. Like, if I had it my way, they'd all be heard, right? So I always knew I wanted to do music, but in high school I was way too caught up in doing things I shouldn't have been doing, that I obviously fixed when I came here. I mean, there's growing up to do that I couldn't do back home and needed to be done here. So I came here, and I think I wrote my first couple lyrics when I got here.
And sorry, just to interrupt you, when you say here, we're at Acadia University. Yeah.
So that when I came up here, I was able to just kind of free myself from all the bad influences back home. And I'm by no means referring to my friends as the bad influences. I'm referring to my own influences that I brought upon myself, kind of thing. And I always knew I wanted to provide them with a voice, because wherever I went, I was reminded about how they're looked upon in society, the new kind of classism that we're seeing, which is bred from racism, right? But racism is still alive and well, as I address in the song. So I knew that the education that I'm receiving here at Acadia would help the content of my music. So I started by just making songs that had nothing to do with really anything conscious. I thought it's what people wanted to hear. And I slowly found out that that's what everybody does locally. No one really is saying stuff that sparks something in people's
Has more meaning behind it?
Has meaning behind it. So this year I decided that I was going to make a project that put my education to work. So number one on the list was Racism is Alive. That is the thing I'm most passionate about. That is what, if I have it my way, I'll tour schools to talk about it if I'm allowed to. I will. It's something I'm very passionate about. And I mean, classes like Dr. Dennis taught me the history of racism. We're talking going from slavery, emancipation, Reconstruction, and through the Gilded Age, through everything, through the black codes, through the racial etiquette that was, and segregation, Jim Crow. And then Dr. Brickner, for my American government class, introduced me to the idea called the new Jim Crow that we're seeing today, where the sugar-coated, institutionalized segregation that we see now. And obviously there's tons of facts for it. There's tons, but it's people talk about it in like the United States, but it's not talked about in the same light in Canada. But I don't think it's any different. I just think obviously our population's way lower, and maybe we don't have stats to back up everything that I'm saying, but I know it's not that much different than it is in the United States, and I know for a fact that our prison systems and our sentencing mandatory minimums are geared towards racial discrimination. And I could go on all day about that, and then I also address the public housing, how they're essentially displacing a race into a ghetto. They're not allowing integration. I go on about that in the song. I go on about the new form of racial etiquette that I was talking to you about, how the
silent racism.
Exactly, the talking white or the acting black, absolutely ridiculous. I was guilty of that in high school. I was ignorant. I would say so and so. I'd ask my white friend, like, why are you talking so black? What does that even mean, though? What does talking black mean? That's so ignorant. That's such an ignorant concept. And as I said, my roommate, who does amazing in school, people will say that he's an Oreo. He's white on the inside, black on the outside, just because he does well in school. All of these things came together, and a mix of anger, whatever emotions you want to say.
Yeah.
But I think it created something beautiful. And all those things played the part of me
And
making
reflected
the
in the song.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think that's awesome. Now you're studying here at Acadia.
Yes.
Are you what's your major?
Political science.
Political science. So I guess to back up a little bit, like we're actually sitting here. This is where this all happens.
It's where the magic
happens.
place.
Yeah,
I'd like to think it's magic.
And so like how long have you been? You said that when you got started, you kind of were more or less just exploring your comfort level with producing and rapping, and now have recently kind of transitioned more into meaningful things that like are value systems that you've developed that now you want to share because you have your platform of rapping or music and producing as an artist. Like what does that kind of roadmap look for you? Like how long have you been doing this kind of thing?
Well, I did lie when I said that I started when I came up here. My best friend from back home, Tyler, shout out to Tyler, he would get me to freestyle at parties in grade 12 because everyone thought they could rap, including myself. I thought I could. I was no good, but I mean, my friends would friends would gas me up, and that's when I knew I had no problem putting myself out there. Then, skill or no skill, I had no problem putting myself out there. You got to start somewhere, exactly. And it's funny when there's still a lot of people from my school who won't listen to my music because of how bad I was then. Yeah. They refuse to. They don't believe that I'm as good as I am now.
Right.
And then there's a couple of them who will just be like, I'll give it a shot, whatever. Yeah. It's 3 minutes out of my day. And then, oh my God, can you send me this song, please? It's amazing, right? It's beautiful. So that's when I started. So at the end of grade 12 to now. So we're getting on 4 years. This is the first time I ever thought of rapping. And then the first time I ever really put pen to paper was 3 years ago.
So it sounds to me like the things that have allowed you to get to where you are today was really at first the being okay or getting comfortable with the uncomfortable, in the fact that were you aware that or did you think that you were good when you started?
I thought I was good, and then I listened.
So there needs to be a certain level of confidence or a certain level of understanding, awareness, whether you think you're good or whether you think you're bad, but you know that, and you're willing to improve and put in the work. I guess what I'm asking is like, how do you get from a point where, you're producing to the point where you are, like when you're first getting started, to the point where you are today? Like what are the key things that have allowed you to continue to get better as an artist?
I'd say a couple things. Main thing is that there's, as I said, there's growing up. I told you before, there's growing up that needs to be done away from home. And one thing that I feel like I've started to master is looking from the outside in, thinking introspectively, and being honest with myself. Right? Being honest and really thinking about how I can progress and that I can always get better. that was the big thing. I feel like 2 years ago I hit a bit of a plateau in my music.
Okay.
And there was no real meaningful content. I wasn't wowing anybody with my flow that I can do now, when I can go like the da 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 da. I can go really fast now, and no one could do that. But 2 years ago I couldn't really do it that well. I just don't feel like my music reflected my intelligence that well. So that was the big step for me to. I feel like this last year I completely flipped the script on the content of my music and the structure of my music. I'm not saying all of my music is what an angel would put on paper. You know what I mean? Because I have to be honest with myself. I'm honest about where I came from, right? And the other big thing, which might even be bigger, is I got the right people around me. I have the right mentors. Quake Matthews is a great friend of mine, and in my opinion, the best rapper in Canada. And he kind of told me, learn from my mistakes and learn from the things that gave me the platform that I have now. And yeah, he's been a very good figure in my life in the music industry, because the truth is you can only trust so many people in the music industry. People that aren't your friends, like he is to me. Like, he's my friend. Like, this guy will come over. We won't even talk about music. We'll just have drinks and laughs. But then the ones who aren't really your friends, you know that there's a ulterior motive. They're trying to get something from you. Right. You know? Because it's the music industry at the end of the day. It's survival of the fittest. We're in Nova Scotia. We're only classified as really... I mean, he really made something with his life, but he's really the only one who made a career out of it. You know? I guess more specifically in like the hip-hop, R&B, like... Sorry, that's what I meant. Oh, yeah. We've had Nova Scotian singers, of course, who have just exploded. But yeah, so those would be the two main things I would say. And of course, family support. I love my family to death. One way or another, they've always supported me. So those three things I'd say, from learning how to look at from the outside in and being honest with myself, which allows improvement. And then the second thing, not being afraid to go to someone else for help, like I went to Quake, and one thing that all the hip hop OGs will tell you is that I respect my elders, and I always commend them. Like, they're the forefathers of this hip hop world. The Quakes, the Classifieds, the DJ IVs, the J Brews, like all those guys. I look up to them, and I want to do them proud. I want to get a step above where they got. Not on like a diss. Like, I'll make it. It's a competitive nature in hip hop, but I think I want to make them proud. For sure. That they influence me. They set the bar for you. Exactly, they set the bar. And then the third thing, as I said, is family. So those three things is what aided my progression. If one of those things wouldn't have fallen into place, I would have just stayed on that plateau that I was in second year. I would have. Yeah, for sure. It's really good to hear that, like, the local artists are really supportive and have played an influential part in your start. Now, are there anyone, or is there one artist in particular that's influenced you on a more international or global scale? Yes. J. Cole is probably my biggest influence. And it honestly just goes beyond music. He's the only person who I would fanboy if I met him. So I'd embarrass myself. I'd embarrass myself just meeting him. I look up to him so much. He's that I mean, he has his similar past as I do. He might have got tied up in some things that aren't desirable, but he persevered. He graduated and just made amazing music that has a message, but it's not. He doesn't sacrifice the quality of the music for the sake of being conscious. So you can listen to his music at a party. You can listen to it when you're the term bumping the whip, right? That's a lot of musicians pride themselves on, if their music can be played in the car when you're driving, right? And little do you know, you're learning something when you're listening to his music. But you're not at a lecture. You're not at a university lecture. You're not bored out of your... Depends also probably what situation you're in. Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'd say him, Tupac Shakur, who I've been listening to since I was 11 years old, 12 years old. He was just, I felt like he was undiagnosed, in my opinion, he was undiagnosed bipolar. This guy had two sides. This guy, he had his artistic side that could have got him to an Ivy League level. Like, he was so intelligent, and then he had the thug life side, whereas, like, you say something I don't like, I'm gonna shoot you in the face. Like, the craziest bipolar undiagnosed case I've ever seen. And he made absolutely amazing music because of it, because you could tell that this guy just had two opposite moods, and he would write music in those two moods.
The switch.
It was amazing. One day he'd be making a Hit 'Em Up or Ride on Our Enemies, and then the other song he'd be like, Keep Your Head Up, for like women awareness. And it was uncanny. Like, I've never seen something like that. He was a huge influence. I'd say those two, and then Kendrick Lamar influenced me to when I saw Kendrick Lamar. First of all, I think he's the best rapper alive. He's not my favorite, but I think he's the best. But when I saw him do what he did for his Pimp a Butterfly album, when he was addressing racial discrimination in all facets, I knew that it was appreciated by people.
Right.
And I mean, clearly, like, it's by far my most viewed video ever. It's not even close.
Yeah. So what's life after the video? Have you noticed a real change, or?
Yeah. I have. I didn't think. I mean, the respect from the African Nova Scotia community has always been there for me, in my opinion.
Right.
But I'll have older, like, I had this older 40, 50-year-old woman from Uniacke Square, when I was recording at the studio, come up to me and, like, she was almost crying. She's like, I can't believe it's come to this where a white man such as yourself will actually say something like this. She was like, when I was 20 years old, this would not be imaginable, but, like, she's like, this is a sign of progression. She was like, I hope that you influence the other artists to use their platform for good. I almost cried. I almost shed a thug tear.
Yeah.
One just trickling down my face. But yeah, that was huge for me. And now I can't go, like, I'm going to keep going to the club. But, like, when I go to the club in Halifax, I can't walk 20 paces without being stopped. And it's either someone I know, because I already knew a lot of people. That's kind of how, even when I was bad at music back in the day, people would just give me a listen because they knew me.
Yeah.
So people, out of respect, exactly. So a lot of people know me, and then that added 50 to 80,000 people that saw the video that didn't know me are just stopping me.
More of a general audience.
They're just stopping me, and every time, I hope, like, don't quote me on this, but I think every time I've been very nice, because they're stopping me for something that is great. They're not stopping me because they're not like, oh, that music video you did on guns and cocaine was so great. It just resonated so well. They're saying your video, your Racism is Alive video, affected me. So of course I'm gonna respond. But, and I mean, I don't know how actual famous people do it though. Like, that was a lot for me, and that was very light. Whereas someone like Kanye West has photographers waiting for him at 4 a.m. outside of his house. What I experienced there was nothing compared to what he experienced. I can't believe it.
Yeah,
like, that was a lot for me.
Is it still, like, kind of sitting in, or like, have you reflected? Like, have you reflected? Have you thought about what happened?
Yeah, my friend Hugh. That's crazy that you said that. He messaged me yesterday and he said, I want you to take 30 seconds because I know you haven't had time. He's like, take 30 seconds to reflect on what has changed in a month. He said, do that. He's like, because that will tell you what you need to keep doing.
Yeah, right.
Because we always learn from our mistakes in life, right? Yeah. We always take time to sit down and think about our mistakes. We never...
Almost out of necessity, right?
Out of necessity, exactly. Me and President Ray Ivany just had this conversation, but you never, hardly ever sit down and reflect on your successes because you're too busy living it.
Right.
I'm too busy.
And
I'm on this wave.
It's easy to ride that wave.
Mm-hmm.
And really, that's when you should be almost just as much as when you have a failure or something doesn't work out, to use that momentum or what you have going for you and take it to the next level.
Exactly. That needs to be a new personal Jacob Cuvelier slogan. It needs to be learn from your success just like you do your mistakes. Right?
There you go. There you go. So I guess that's a good segue into kind of like what's next for you.
Right.
Where are you headed?
Musically, like, this is, as far as outside of music, I mean, I obviously want to graduate, and I want to make sure that I have a stable job that, I mean, there's nothing fun about not having a job and only having music when your music hasn't even reached a level that it's bringing you money, right? And so the most money I'll see from music is just mixtape sales or a couple $100s from a show. Classified, I won't say what he makes because right? I don't want to blow him up like that, but he makes
a good
more money than I could ever imagine from a show. You know what I mean? It's amazing. And so before I get to that point, which I promise you I will get to that point, I want to have a career.
We've got that, eh?
Yeah.
We got that on tape.
I will get to that point. I want to have a career that enables me to keep up the dream, but also just gives me a stable living, right? So, of course, something that I think I could do very well is teach. My dad was a teacher for 43 years. I know I can teach because crazy thing is he had me come and talk to his class once, and then he had me talk to, it was like 30 or 40 at-risk youth at the school, not mental health at risk, like just in and out of the youth
lack of resources and support.
Yeah. People who I very much sympathize with, because I mean I was kind of in that position. So he just locked me in the room essentially with these 30 or 40 kids, and in my head I was like, how is this gonna go? Like, are they gonna respond well to me? Because one fault of mine that I will forever admit, well, no, I'll admit a lot of faults, but this is like the shining one, is my temper. So I was like, I hope that they behave, because at the end of the day, they're kids. There's nothing I can do. I'll just explode in my head. There's nothing I can do, right? They listened to every single thing that I said, and they responded. I went around to these kids and said, like, why do you think you're here? Because I was like, you haven't gotten away with anything. They chose you specifically because you're at risk, so they know what you may or may not be doing when you're not in school. And that kind of, seeing that told me that whether it's with my music or whether it's with my career, I want to work with kids somehow.
Yeah.
So
make that connection there.
Make that connection. Nip that problem before it becomes like the rest of their life. You know what I mean? And so as far as music goes, I'm not gonna let people think that this was just a phase. Yeah. Or that it was just capitalizing on the fact that I didn't even realize it was, like, I didn't okay, well, let me rewind that. I obviously realized it was Black History Month, but I did not put that video out because it was Black History Month.
Just happened.
I put that video out. You can ask my buddies. I had this song called Middle Finger to the Jim Crow a year ago, and it was just too much profanity. Right. It was coming, my heart was in the right place, but it was too much profanity. I did not consciously put this song out because it was Black History Month to capitalize or whatever some people would do. I put it out because I've been dying to have that message come out of my mouth and into the ears of my social media following. So I want to continue to make songs like that, whether it's mental health awareness, whether it's, I'm going to have a song I have a song almost written that's just purely on sentencing reform. I want to maybe attack these mandatory minimums that are putting some of my close friends away, right? And I want to talk about the gender issue that we were talking about. I want to talk about Instagram, how Instagram, they should call it Instagate. It just makes things harder than it needs to be sometimes when people aren't using it for the right reasons. Right. So I want to keep making music like that, and I feel like music with a real meaning behind it, I feel like I could take take this to the top. I want to obviously get more live shows. I have a great live show coming up. I'm opening for Scratch Bastard at the Anvil. That would be great.
When's that?
March 18th.
March 18th. Okay. Well,
I was hoping.
Dylan, can you put a link in there or something? Yeah, cool.
Yes. And he was like, I saw your interview on Global. I like, so the interview on Global on such an amazing issue that I did not think was going to make the waves that it did got me this show. That's beautiful. So like, live shows definitely I need to step up my live shows if I want to take this music to the next level, because at the end of the day I can be an internet superstar as much as I want, but if people aren't seeing this face on a stage with a mic in my hand, they can't connect to me the same way.
Yeah.
You know? So yeah, that's the plan. My plan in the future, as I said, is to have my base being my education and my whatever profession I choose, which will hope be teaching, or I'm going up to the Cabot Links to bartend this summer, and that's a great, I mean, that'll pay for my whole year next year, so that's a great thing to have.
So you got one more year?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm coming back. I'm gonna do an independent study actually on racism, which will be great.
Yeah.
It'll definitely help with whatever next song I make. It'll give me the information, so I don't sound like an idiot. And that was a big thing for me for this song. I didn't want to sound uninformed.
Educate yourself.
And so that's a plan, to have that solid base, and then musically to have more shows. I need to put way more visuals. I realize that people get tired of just hearing the audio and seeing this still picture of me. They don't want to look at me that much, right? They'd rather see a bit, like some dope visuals, right? And that's why I was talking to your man. I was like, I see his equipment is pristine. I see his equipment's pristine.
There might be some future collaboration here. But,
that'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
So the visuals, the shows, and the networking. Got to network until my neck hurts, and that's about it. And I can't burn any bridges at this point. I realize that.
It seems like you're doing that. I mean, you probably, like, for one, I know I reached out, but I'm assuming there was many more other people, and it seems like you responded to me right away. You were very open to making this happen.
And, for sure.
It was easy.
I love stuff like this because you don't get it all in my music. My song's not 30 minutes long. Yeah. Right? It's 3 minutes. I have to say there's a lot I have to say, and it can't fit in a 3-minute song. I have to make everything rhyme. I have to make it all appealing. So I don't get everything. So I appreciate you coming here.
No,
trust me.
It's been great. Before I guess we wrap things up, how can people find you? Like your music, your social following, that kind of stuff.
I have a SoundCloud, which is Cuv. You just search up Cuv on SoundCloud. You'll find it there. I'll hit you with the link.
Yeah, we'll get Dylan to put that in there.
My Instagram, which I often, I'll post some inspiring picture, or I'll post just previews of my music or what I'm working on. It's excuse the last number. It's just my sick mind. It's Groovy Cuvie 69. My Snapchat is the same thing. My Snapchat, you'll see more previews of my music than absolutely anything. Every day I'm either singing or I'm rapping. I'm trying to sing. I'm trying to add that to my repertoire. And yeah, that's about it. My Facebook page, which is finally developing. It's got I think it's got 1,500 likes now, which is great. I want to get that. I want to get it to the point where I can get that blue certified check. So everyone, go look up Cuv on CUV on Facebook and like that page, so I can get that certified blue check mark, so I can look important and feel important.
Awesome, man. Well, I was just as you were speaking, I was just
You're snapping me.
You're just snapping you. So that was it was a really good talk, man. It was great to connect with you. I think this is just the start of great things for you. And I look forward to following that, and
For sure, we'll keep in touch.
continue to stay in touch.
Maybe next time we talk, I'll have even elevated a little bit more.
For sure,
Lord
man.
willing.
For sure. Awesome. Thanks, Jacob.
Appreciate it very
man.
much.
Yeah. Cool.
Thank you for coming through.
Awesome.
It breeds fear, and that there's a fact, and I don't need to be black to address this. Please join me, talking about the exodus. Let's get away from the label and the stigma. White rapper spitting, but what I spit is enigma. Cool.